Hello, welcome everyone to another episode. Today I'm being joined by Hemi again. She was actually interviewed recently in another episode, and I'll share the show link below. And it was around healing your relationship with food and body image, and it was a really, really good one. So I'd highly recommend listening to it. I'm really pleased that you get to join me because you're going to, as you said, ruffle a few feathers and make people think a little differently about the dieting world, which is exactly what I want. And I knew you'd bring the goods.
More than ruffle the feathers, I'm ready for a pillow fight.
Yeah, amazing. She's got her beautiful background going. It's just, she's ready to go. So, well, we'll get straight into it. I want you to introduce yourself because you're amazing. And I think you are.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience of me, and the feeling is mutual. So, all right. So my name is Ximy Gonzalez, and I am from Colombia, South America. And I've worked for the last 24 years as a holistic health and fitness consultant. And I've worked on TV, sharing fitness and nutrition and holistic health tips. I had a career in entertainment for about 10 years, and I've been a magazine columnist. I've lectured across the world in these topics, and I've worked with people from all walks of life. I'm the director of holistic health for the FMA Strength Institute, and I'm the author and producer of the Seven Body Basics and the Bombshell Mastermind, which I run jointly with my husband, Mark Buckley.
Yes,
So,
who's also
oh,
inspirational.
founder of the Bombshell Formula.
Yeah, I'm going to share all these show links below because people need to know how to get in touch with you. Um,
Great, thanks.
just from that intro. Okay, let's talk about diet. Because this keeps coming up of
Mhm.
how do I stick to my diet? I'm falling off the wagon. I stick to it for a couple of weeks and then I something happens in life where I either want to, like in your words and Mark's words, I want to feel more good or less bad in that situation. So they fall off the wagon, then they feel guilt and shame, and then it goes all into this roller coaster. And I did it. We've all done it, haven't we? We've all been in diets. I remember my horrendous diets that I used to follow, like drinking aloe vera for a week and taking supplements. I didn't do Weight Watchers or Light and Easy, but I was doing horrendous things like taking caffeine pills on empty stomachs just because apparently it would get your heart rate going and your metabolism going. Because being thin is the best thing in life. Like that's what you're meant to be as a woman. Did you follow any diets?
Well, it's interesting because I adopted a vegan diet when I was 18 years old, which initially um, helped me address a situation I had with asthma. And eventually, 8 years down the line, destroyed my health.
I
And that was
talking about
actually
this.
one of
Yeah.
the things that got me into this field. And through that experience, and through my clients, one of the things that I understood is that our relationship with food tends to be a lot around control. And when we grow up and we feel that we're out of control of our life because we have caregivers that, you know, are too protective or controlling, then we feel we can't control anything in our lives. And so oftentimes, food is one of those things that we eventually discover we can have control over. And so in an attempt to regain control, we start adopting these very interesting relationships with food. And that was one of my situations. And it's about not just trying to control what you're eating, but try to control what other people are eating. So through food, I learned a lot about myself. And I think that one of the most important things and one of the messages that I want to share is that everything in life is a tool for us to learn about the painful relationships we have with ourselves that we project onto these different things. For example, I had a painful relationship with myself and control that I projected onto food. Does that make sense? So that was one of my entries. And by the way, let me just give a little prequel to what I just said. And it's that, so I grew up in the 90s, 80s, 90s. And it was around the time that the supermodels became, you know, the it thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very confusing growing up when you're a teenager and you start seeing your body changing. And like I tend to have curves, and so like I was looking at these girls and they were super tall and skinny, and that's kind of like what you aspired, because I wasn't taught to uh self-discover, to connect with myself, and to discover, okay, so what is my body and what are the things that I need to do to nourish my body naturally and to support my health. And as a result of that, then, you know, like look the best that I could within my own structure. But what we're taught to do is to dismiss ourselves and to project our ideas onto the outside world, or our ideas of how we should look. So the reason why I bring this into the conversation is because like right around that time, I obviously wanted to look like super skinny. And when I adopted this vegan diet, I like, so currently I probably weigh, I don't weigh myself, and I'll be sharing why I don't do that. But I probably, if I guesstimate, is around 60 kilos. Okay, I'm like, you do like centimeters, right? So I'm like, what, 169, something
Okay.
like that, my
Yeah.
height. And I was 100 pounds, which is like 47 kilos
Jeez.
when I was on this vegan diet. I was literally on the bone. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, which is what you were saying at the beginning, oh, I'm skinny.
Mm.
Yay. Like, and I'm living, you know, eating the perfect diet for human health and blah, blah, blah. Little did I know what was awaiting me. And this is part of the problem, that because in my head, I was thinking that because I'm skinny, I'm healthy. I started to dismiss all of the signs that my body was giving me, letting me know that the way that I was eating was basically destroying my body and my health.
Mm.
So, you know, it was like I did it for health reasons. Yeah, and because I found out what they were doing to the animals, etc. And by the way, this was in 1995. Okay, almost 30 years ago, when in Colombia, nobody even knew what a vegan was. There were a couple of vegetarians, but vegans, like my grandmother was like, have you really lost your marbles? Like, what's going on? What is this?
Yeah. Was it like
And
another sort of, have you seen that movie, the Greek, My Fat Greek Wedding, who's like,
yeah.
tells you I'm a vegetarian. It's like, okay, I'll do you lamb. Forget it.
Pretty much. Pretty much. So yeah, and my health just was a wreck
What?
after that. My hormonal system, my nervous system, my digestive system, my elimination system, like my entire body was just severely compromised. So that experience had deep purpose in my life, because it was meant to teach me one of the most powerful lessons that I want to share with all of you today. And it's that, well, first of all, I wasn't um I wasn't following a vegan diet. I was a vegan, and my entire sense of self was attached to this. So when I understood that I was in a very compromised situation, and that I realized after doing a lot of research that what I needed to do was eat meat, after I tweaked my diet in every way, shape, and form. And by the way, at the time I was working at a vegan spa. I was a fitness director, and I was working with vegan doctors. And so
Mm.
I,
So your
like,
whole
it's not like I was,
identity.
yeah, it's not like I was just like, oh, I made this up, and, you know, like, anyway, so I tweaked whatever, and it was like, okay, it's gonna be either me or the animals. And I had to make that choice. And my ego was so attached to this identity and to this whole narrative and everything, that I almost made the choice of sticking to my pride. I'm glad I didn't. And I remember the first time that I put a piece of meat in my mouth. I thought everybody told me you're gonna vomit, it's gonna make you feel super sick because it's so toxic to your body and it's dead flesh and it's gonna rot in your body. The minute I put that piece of meat in my mouth, I didn't actually like the taste because I had never really cooked meat. So I didn't prepare it well. So it wasn't the taste thing. It was when I ate, I felt like it was the first time that I had eaten in 8 years.
Wow.
Literally, I could not comprehend how with a tiny serving, I was satisfied, I was stable, I didn't have cravings, my belly wasn't bloated. And when I was eating all these plants, my belly was bloated, I was craving, I had to eat huge amounts of food in order to feel satisfied. Like this really messed with my head. So this brings me to one of the most important points. I was instinct injured. My rational mind and all the brainwashing through what I was seeing on media, through the supermodels, whatever, and what I was hearing from academia about cholesterol this and protein that, and and all this, had severed me from my instinct and from my body and what my body actually needed. But in that moment, it was like my instinct came back online because I could not argue intellectually with my body and what I had just felt, which was nourishment
Mm.
in one meal. The difference was like from night to day, how I felt. Why is this part of the story so important? Because most people today have so many painful ideas around food that when people sit in front of a plate of food, they're literally sitting in front of the enemy like a lion that is chasing them. They are afraid this is going to do this, this is going to do that. Or maybe they're convinced for a while that this food is ideal or this diet, and then they scroll social media and they hear another expert with equally impressive credentials and research telling them the complete opposite. So now they start second guessing themselves. And they're like, oh my God, like this diet is not right. Like, what if I'm hurting myself? What if I'm... And so now we've got another thing that we're adding to that mix of bad foods that are going to hurt me and that are keeping me in the state of fear and that are severing me more and more and more from my connection to food and to my body. And I'm just in this state of confusion. And I think that this is the place where a lot of people sit right now. So I want to meet you where you're at. And my wild guess, if I empath based on what I'm seeing in the collective, where are most people at? In a place of confusion because they are instinct injured. And so can I just explain what instinct injury is real quick? Like
Please.
elaborate so that they can really connect with this. Okay. So working with clients for these years, these many decades, I started to notice that, well, while my training was to get to the root of their issue and help them at the root of the issue instead of playing patch the symptom game, in going through that process and seeing clients that were coming to see me for very different issues, whether it was they were having issues with excess fat accumulation, or they wanted to, they were having a lot of stress, or they had a degenerative health condition, or you name it, like many different issues. I would see, oh, well, the issue is this and the issue is that, and they all had different underlying issues. But then I started to realize, like, one of my skills is pattern recognition. And I started to realize that there was a pattern, and that if I was to look, so I would think that the root of their issue was like the deepest I could go. But then I realized that was the tip of the iceberg. And there was something deeper that connected them all. And what this was, I could not put into words. It was an abstract concept. And it was until I read a book and I saw two words that just made all the dots connect. Those two words were instinct injury. So when I saw those two words, it was in a different context. But then I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm seeing. So what is this? This is a state, an umbrella term. Let's just say it's an umbrella term that I use to describe a state where people are disconnected from themselves, from their body, from nature, from ancestral wisdom, and from source. And they're walking around their lives feeling like they're trying to navigate life with a broken inner compass because they're so disconnected that they can't trust themselves and their body and their inner guidance. And because they're in that state, when we're in that place, we don't trust ourselves, this puts us in a state of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And when we are in a state of fear, it typically regresses us to a childish or infantilized state, where now we have to give our power away to external surrogate parent figures to tell us how we need to live and what we need to eat, et cetera, et cetera. And we're at the mercy of their integrity, and that what they're telling us is actually true, and that it's not sponsored by you fill in the blanks. And so it puts people in a very vulnerable place. So instinct injury is an injury to your instinct, to your intuition, to your innate intelligence, and to your integrity. So this is, in my opinion, the epidemic. And if you're instinct injured, you can't sense the predator, and that turns you into easy prey. Easy prey to who, you may ask? The fitness industry, the dieting industry, the academics, the supplement industry, like everybody, because you don't know yourself. You don't understand your body. You don't trust your body. And they're going to tell you how you need to look, and they're going to tell you what you need to do in order to achieve that look. And in that process, they're going to break you down physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, intuitively, because you're going to be more and more and more lost and more disconnected, and now picking fights with food, with body image, with you fill in the blanks. So that's my ruffle the feathers intro. Let me know if that makes sense, or if you have questions.
I've got questions, but that was amazing, brilliant. It explains so much, and I know you've spoken about this in the past as well, but every time I hear it, I get more light bulb moments because I hear different things. It's exactly what so many people do, and they even say, it's like, I followed this person on social media and they say this, and then they change their mind, they follow this person on social media, and then but this expert who's got all of these credentials, like, they can't be wrong. And they give, like you said, they give their power away to these experts, and then they wonder why it's not working for them, or they do fall off the wagon, and then they go into that guilt and the shame. It's like, well, why can't I do it? So, because in general, most people are going to be instinct injured, aren't they? Because most people give their power away, and they all want to lose weight. It doesn't seem to be the focus on, I want more energy, I want to get strong, I want to be healthy for my kids. Yes, you do get that a bit more in mums now, but they still, in the back of their mind, it's about losing the tummy weight, and they will do anything they can to lose the tummy weight, and that's the focus. So how do we start helping them shift? Because it's even that their identity, right? They're with their other mums, and it gets to like 4 o'clock, and you're like, okay, it's time for wine. So I need to get through the rest of the day having a wine. It's been a tough day with my kids. In the morning, you have the coffee. It's after the kids are down, you've got more wine and you've got chocolate because you want to feel more good or less bad in that situation. So how do we help to start with? I know that's a lot there.
Oh, that's just gold. But the first thing that I'm going to say two things. One is, as I speak, I like to speak in the black and whites, in the extremes, so that you can find the shades of gray and how this information applies to you. Okay? So this is the first thing that I'm going to say. And then the next thing that I'm going to say is, when people ask me a question, I can oftentimes say, do you want me to say what you want to hear? Or do you want me to say what could potentially lead you to a deep awareness? What you do with your awareness, that's another story. But one thing that I do not do is I don't sugarcoat, I don't bullshit, and I don't enable weakness in people.
I like that, because it just to put it in perspective for listeners, I'm explaining as an example as a personal trainer. In the past, people would come to me and say, "Oh, I've done this bad thing at the weekend. I shouldn't have. I'm sorry, Lara." And before I was with FMA, I'd be like, "Yeah, you shouldn't have done that, da da da." It's enabling that child because they want to be, it's like they want to be told off, and then they want
Yeah.
to be told, "You did this bad thing, now you need to get back on the wagon." And now it's like, well, it doesn't affect me. What, how do
Okay,
you
so
feel?
let's first explain that, because
Yeah.
that's really important, and then remind me, please take your notes
Yeah.
and remind me that we're gonna be going into the whole identity around weight, and I'll break all that down. Okay, so first let's start here, and it's that as we're children, and we have our caregivers, the role of the feminine energy, or the mother, as I understand it, is to inspire the child to self-discover. The role of the masculine, or the father figure, would be to validate that child as it self-discovers, so that that child can learn how to self-inspire and self-validate. Okay? And in the initial phases, because children can't do anything for themselves, the parents do that for them. And in a sense, the parents manage their power. So imagine that you're born with like an inheritance, that it's like you're a trust fund child, and you're born with all this potential and all this energy, but you can't even feed yourself, you know? So your parents manage that trust fund and that energy and that power for you. And as you go through the formative years, the goal is to give the child more responsibility and give that child more of its power, and give them the tools so that it can manage that power as you start releasing, and that child eventually can self-manage and can manage its power. Okay, this is really important. What happens is that this is a process of teaching the child to find power within, and to self-regulate, and to develop emotional intelligence, et cetera, et cetera. But that's typically not what happens. Typically what happens is that the caregiver learns to get its emotional needs met through the child, and it presents itself as an authority figure engaging in power struggles and control dramas with that child. And the child understands very early that my survival is attached to these characters, to these people. So I may need to be compliant and basically abandon who I am to become who I think they want me to be. So compliance. And then at some stage, I realize I've given myself up. This is typically more in the teenage years, and they become very defined. And I'm not saying, like, a child can be very defined early in life as well, and you know, and flip back and forth, right? But compliance defiance. There is a third party that is presented as an authority figure, and the compliance defiance are two sides of the same coin, because it's our psyche either complying with what a third party wants or defying what that third party wants. So the third party is in charge. Well, we think that if I give myself away, I'm in charge. Or if I defy and I do what I want, and it's a total opposite to what you want, I'm in charge. No, my love. The projected authority figure is in charge. So what is the goal? Is to self-discover and learn to assert self and find inner authority. Okay? Now, with that background, remember I said at the beginning that our relationship with food is basically a projection of the painful relationship we have with ourselves that we project onto food, exercise, work, sex, blah, blah, blah. You fill in the blanks. So what happens is that if we had, remember, we go into this infantile state, okay, when we're afraid of gaining weight, or we're afraid of, you know, not knowing what to eat or whatever. And what we do is we first hire some kind of coach that we project mom and dad onto. And then they tell us what to do. And initially we comply, only to find ourselves defying the coach and getting what people call off the wagon. And so then they come to the coach, and as they're complying, they're coming in for compliment. Like, oh, like, look at what I've done, how compliant I've been. Like, give me a happy face and a yellow star. And then it's like, oh, I have to confess, I just ate blah, blah, blah. And then oftentimes the coach, if you don't have an understanding of this, will go, oh, wow, good job. And then when they don't do what it want, it's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you off the wagon? Like, and then they take the role of the parent and tell them off. So what happens is this traps the person in a cycle of compliance, defiance, where they're projecting mom and dad onto this. And they're like, oh, this didn't work. And so now they jump onto the next coach, the next diet, the next book, and they repeat the same compliant, defiant cycle. It's not about the coach. It's about the painful relationship they have themselves with authority that they project onto food. So now food becomes a tool for self-discovery that allows me to see, oh, I still have an active, painful mother ego, father ego, child ego, and I'm playing this dynamic and projecting it onto food. Okay, so this is the whole getting off the wagon thing. So like I said, I could have the choice of going like, oh, you're such a good girl, you're such a good boy, and play mommy and daddy, but there's going to be consequences to that. Then as a coach, I'm going to feel like I'm not enough to rescue other people from themselves. And my role is not to be a parent. My role is just to accompany somebody, witness them, give them some tools for self-discovery, and let them parent themselves. That. And with that, I don't say good job, I don't say bad job. I just go, oh, so you had, I don't know, Oreos and Doritos and whatever. How did it feel?
Mm.
Because this is my invitation for them to stop projecting their choices and the consequence of their choices onto me and how I'm going to feel about their choices. And I'm inviting them inside themselves to develop emotional intelligence, connect with consequence of choice, and decide, oh, I'm bloated, I feel gassy, I have a headache after eating that. But when I don't eat that and I eat these other foods, I feel amazing and I feel energized, blah, blah. Okay, fantastic. Now it's not an authority figure telling you. Now it's your body speaking to you. The question is, are you going to defy your body? Are you going to blindside yourself because your body's telling you something that you don't want to hear, that maybe those cookies are not ideal for your body and for your goals, if your goal is to look and feel a certain way? So, see, it's not about me, just a messenger.
Mm.
And it's ultimately about you and your relationship with food. Because you see, the thing is that if you eat the Doritos and the cookies, I'm not the one who's going to be walking around bloated, gassy, with a headache, and feeling sad and upset that I tell myself I don't have willpower or any of those stories. It's you.
Yeah. So many things I want to go back on, but it's when you said that, it's also when you're having the Oreos and the Doritos, it is that identity again, because if you're around friends who have this lifestyle, if you're around your partner who have this lifestyle, it's one, you have to then become aware of your instincts. On top of the fact, you have to also be comfortable that you might lose friends and you might pull away from partners, which again is another challenge. So how how do we manage that? And two, how do we get back to being not instinct injured? Because people talk about mindful eating. And for me, it's like, yeah, brilliant, mindful eating. But people are so fucked in awareness that how can they trust that what they think they should be eating is true?
There's so many questions here and so many things
So
that
what do you
to
want to
just go.
cover first? The identity or the getting back to instinct?
So first, we're going to talk about the identity.
Mhm.
This is so important because remember how I was talking about compliance defiance? So if your caregivers um, like have the story that you need to like let's say they were health nuts, and they're like obsessed and telling you what you can, what you can't eat, weighing you and all this stuff, chances are you're either going to be compliant or defiant to that. And you're going to learn to get attention from your caregivers through complying with them and becoming who you think they need to be, they want you to be, or defying them in relationship to food. So you're either going to be obsessed with diets and counting calories and all these things to fit in, or you're going to be eating whatever Doritos and making yourself really overweight, etc., just to punish your parents. Or if we have the other side, which is the parents that, like have no interest in what they put in their mouths, and they just think that it's genetics and that's why they're obese, and they tell the child that they're always going to be obese and that there's nothing they can do. That person can be, the child can be initially compliant and eat all these things in order to feel like they belong to the family and fit in the compliance, right? Or they're going to be defiant and go through all the weight loss procedures and everything. And, and again, it's back to this compliant defiant. So now you find yourself in a relationship with a partner, and you're going to project your mother, your father, all the unprocessed, unresolved issues that you have with them onto this person. So you're going to want to learn how to fit in with them through food, or to defy them, or to your partner, and so on. And this was what inspired my book, Power, because what I realized is that, and it goes beyond the family, like with your colleagues and your friends and, whatever. And people want to fit in through food, and they cannot handle being in the presence of another person's judgment and disapproval of their choices without giving their power away to that person. What I realized was, okay, let's say my clients started to go through a self-discovery process and connect with all the foods that were working with them. They were doing amazing. They were feeling great. And suddenly they go out to a dinner. And, as I figure out what, I help my clients figure out what their metabolic tendency is based on how they feel with meals, etc. And this is a process of self-discovery and then learning to assert themselves. And part of that process is when we go out and we interact with other people. And then maybe somebody will say, oh my God, you're going to eat all that butter, that red meat. Oh my God, that's going to give you a heart attack. That's going to do this. That's going to do that, blah, 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 blah. And so the food police gets unleashed. And all these self-appointed nutritionists, which typically have a horrible relationship with their bodies and with food, etc., but they present themselves as the controlling authority figure at that table. And then this person starts to freak out because they feel that they're being attacked. And if they don't understand, like why they're actually making these choices, and that it's okay to eat butter because, like look at both sides of the argument, and this, which is part of the process that I go through with them. It's not, oh, just eat this. Like, why? Because Ximy said so?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, we're going to ask your body, and then we're also going to understand food as well, so that you can feel safe eating. So this triggers a massive stress response with clients. And I have not had a single client in my career, friend, family member, because I witnessed these things, that doesn't either buckle under the pressure and then start eating the foods that they already know make them feel awful, just to belong and just to fit in. They're willing to sacrifice their body and their well-being in exchange for belonging, because that's one of our main human needs, is belonging. And so the other thing they may do is they may go really compliant and then double down on the butter and then just splatter that plate with 3 times the amount of butter they probably were going to eat. And again, we regress to this childish state, and compliance defiance to authority, and how can I get more attention, or how can I fit in, or, like, and again, these are exercises, it's not about, oh, like, we're going to eat this. Okay, we're going to eat this. We're going to connect with our body, but at the same time, go out to the world and meet yourself, and meet how well you can manage your power, or how easy you bleed your power to the slightest disapproval coming from another human. So does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Thank you. Um, I love that you talk about butter because so many people say to me, "You eat a lot of butter." I'm just known as this butter
Yes,
girl.
right.
Like, I love butter. They're like, really? Isn't it like not healthy? Okay, going into it again. Um,
Yes.
so identity around weight. Should we
Mhm.
go into that? Because that's
Okay.
always it's always a thing. It's like I want to lose weight. Whatever people ultimately want to do deep down, get stronger, get healthy, have more energy. It's always about the weight is the hook for people.
Are you ready for a pillow fight with the weight loss industry? Like
Yes,
seriously.
please. Yes, please.
All right, so let's look at it from this different perspective. So, what I have learned through these years is that the pursuit of weight loss is a perpetual prison that you do not free yourself from if you continue pursuing weight loss. Let me explain why. You pursue weight loss and you are consumed and obsessed with losing weight. And then if you lose the weight, you are obsessed with not gaining it back. And this becomes your life. Losing weight, not getting it back. Then you do gain it back because you go through the whole compliance, defiance, and then you go back to, I need to lose weight. And your entire sense of self, like I was giving the example with me as a vegan, your entire sense of self is attached to this because you don't know who you are beyond losing and gaining weight. That's one part. And then we go to the scale. And as I've come to understand it, the scale is an instrument of self-devaluation. Because what you're doing is you're standing in front of this tool that tells you whether you're enough or not based on a number. And I've had clients that would get on that scale, and if that number hit the magic number, if the scale hit the magic number, like it was like their lover just called them and they just on a higher, they just took a hit of, whatever drug.
It's that whole identity again, though. When you go to Weight Watchers, all they do is weigh them, and
Yeah,
you're good or you're
I
bad.
do not weigh my clients. I do not. And the first thing I said was just like, if you want to work here with me, like, I want to ask you, are you willing to drop the concept of weight and the scale in the bin? Because I'm not going to be perpetuating this prison and the cycle. It's not what I do. If you want to find somebody to play those games with, that's fine. There's so many people out there that are willing to play that game. That's not what we're doing here. So the other thing is that and then they don't even enjoy their day because now they're worried about whether that number is going to change. And this is a painful cycle, and it traps people in that prison. And the shackles are the scale, the number, and what those numbers mean. So one question that I invite people to consider is this: are you ready? If the scale did not exist, if the calipers did not exist, the body fat percentage
Mhm.
calipers or whatever instrument to measure that, if the tape measure did not exist, and the concept of weight, circumference, and body fat percentage did not exist, what would your fitness or health related goals be if we took numbers out of the equation? Because what we've done is we have turned food, which is meant to be a beautiful, nourishing experience that delights the senses, our body, that gives us life force, into a mathematical equation that makes people disconnected from themselves, from food, and they have turned their relationship with body image into a mathematical equation. Their exercise, which should be about joy and movement, into a mathematical equation. And all of these are tools for self-evaluation of, if I don't fit within these calories, if I don't fit within this weight, if I don't fit within these many steps or whatever it is, like, I'm not enough.
Yeah.
And it's a shame ritual.
It's also that
Women into perfectionism and a very disconnected relationship with what these things are about. And this is like the left brain taking over and trying to quantify and quantify like our movement, the way we look, what we eat. I mean, if this is not a prison and the miserable one, I don't know what is.
crazy, isn't it? When you put it like that, when you say in a prison, it's so true. And when you went back to that sort of the exercise, and it, people even see exercise as that punishment. It's like I'll punish myself in the gym so that I can eat over the weekend. It's such a big thing. And you're like,
Can we talk about that?
yeah, please.
Okay, so I'm going to bring two things in there. One is punishment reward cycles of I'm going to starve myself and control what I eat or what I don't eat. So I start the day with not eating, and it gives me a feeling that I'm in control. Remember, at the start of this, I said this is all about control. It gives me a feeling of control. And then Mother Nature kicks in with a vengeance. It's called an appetite that has not been nourished throughout the day. And now you're in fight or flight, starving. And now you cannot control yourself, and you binge and you feel out of control and you beat yourself up and you tell yourself that tomorrow it's going to be different, that tomorrow you are going to control your willpower, and tomorrow you will control your body and your calories and your exercise and everything. And you repeat the same cycle. And that's the other prison, right? So then people tell themselves these stories like, I'll have a cheat day. What you're telling me is, I hate the way I eat. And I am in complete restriction, compliance, which is blind obedience to some idea around food that I'm not connected with. I don't even know what it's doing to my body. I'm just concerned about how I'm going to lose this weight. And you have to give yourself a defiance moment so you don't break. And in this defiance, you go and you eat, like whatever crosses your path. And then you meet the feelings of self-devaluation again, that I'm not enough, that I'm not this. Do you see how this is teaching us about ourselves? It's got nothing to do with food. It's about the relationship we have with ourselves that we project onto food, body image, that come from control, that come from an inability to self regulate and to self-soothe. And as mothers, please hear me out on this. When your child is born and that child is crying, the first thing that that child does is it goes to your nipple for milk. The milk is sweet. The milk is nourishment. That milk is connection. If through our formative years, we're not given the tools to learn how to self-soothe, how to self-regulate, and how to feel connected with ourselves and the people around us, we are going to be seeking that nipple through food, alcohol, drugs, cigarette, nail biting, sex, the mouth. So this is about, I don't know how to self-regulate. When I have feelings where I'm out of control, where I have emotions that I don't know how to process, I look for something that gives me a sense of my mom's nipple. And then I don't understand why I can't let go of the foods that don't serve me, because I've made an association that these are my comfort foods that give me comfort. And by the way, I've never personally heard a client say to me, yeah, you know what? I was sitting down and I was eating that donut and it was so good and all my senses were engaged. And it was like, no, we're in a deep state of dissociation and they're not even present. The next thing they know, when they come back, they've gone through a whole box. They don't even know where the box went. They're bloated, they're gassy, they've got a headache, and they hate themselves because they tell themselves that they don't have self-control. And they disconnected for a moment from what they were really upset about, that is really hurting.
Mm.
They come back, that pain has not gone anywhere. Now it's just gone deeper.
It's I guess I'm just putting it out there from my perspective. It's harder to deal with those emotions because what are you going to open up? What's you need to deal with a lot there because maybe you've not done it ever before and this is the start. Are you confident enough to deal with this, or is it that I need to just do the donut and get into that haze so I feel better? It's
Yeah.
it's
And you're going to go through that cycle over and over and over and over again until you have the interest, the courage to be present to your little girl
mm,
hurting, because this is all about self-abandonment. And I know that this is a massive thing for mothers.
mm,
And I think that one of the things that happens in motherhood and when you have your children is that you start to really connect with how much you abandon yourself. But you can't look at that because it hurts too much. So then you tell yourself that it's okay to keep abandoning yourself because you have to be 100% over there with the children. And what happens is when we don't give to ourselves and we give to another at our expense and to our detriment, we resent that giving. And that child is going to feel that resentment.
mm,
So and let me tell you something, like when I work with clients, as you can see, I go deep with them. And I have never come across a client that did not have a very painful relationship with food and body image, that did not have a very painful relationship with the parents, that either devalued their physical body and told them that they were disgusting, that they were fat, that tried to lock the fridge, that took them to all these experts to help them lose weight. Let me give you an example. I had a client that the mother stuck Victoria's Secret pictures on the fridge. I have another mother who took their daughter to a doctor. She was 16 years old, so that they would stitch a piece of cloth on their tongue, on her tongue, so that it would hurt to eat, and she would go on a liquid diet to lose weight. So you are teaching that little girl that food is the enemy, that food is bad, that your appetite is bad and something that needs to be suppressed, that that it hurts to eat, and that in order to be loved and accepted and respected by your own mother, you have to look a certain way regardless of what the means are. And the psychological, psycho-spiritual, physical, like the level of wounding that this does is so profound. And I'm going to throw something else for mothers, like why that child needed to have those experiences, why their soul needed to have those experiences, are for reasons that I may or may not understand. They needed that experience. If not, it wouldn't have happened. Okay. And they needed to have that dynamic with their mother. Okay. So whatever experiences we have were necessary for our soul's development. Okay. So I am not even judging that mother. But what I am saying to all of you is we can only give what we have. And if we have a painful relationship with ourselves about our little girl, and we're not tending to those wounds, that is what's going to be projected onto our child.
Mm-hmm.
Let me explain what I mean by that. So when I had a conversation with the mother that did the stitching, which was sent to me by a psychologist, by the way, the girl. And I had a conversation with the mother, and I said to the mother, okay, so here, we're not going to be doing pills. We're not going to be doing CrossFit. Well, this girl is starving, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, we're not going to be doing this. Our approach is going to be, we're going to do this. We're going to self-discover. We're going to help her reconnect with her body. We're going to help her reframe food, heal her relationship with her. She never came back because her daughter healing meant she needed to heal from all this herself. See where I'm going with this?
Definitely. And it's led on to that exact question that I wanted to talk to you about, in that as mums listening, you always want the best for your children. So
100.
I guess you want to make sure that, I mean, if you're a mum, you are putting onto your child whatever wounds you've got around food, around exercise. So I guess to change that, we need to work on ourselves to then be able to work on our child. Am I right?
And that when my clients read my book Power, which by the way, I'm gonna give it to all of your listeners for free.
Wow.
So you guys tell
Amazing.
me Power, I'll send you guys Power for free, because I feel like every single parent needs to read this.
That's so
Okay.
kind.
I've got this book for everybody to read, because self-parenting is is just so needed today. So needed today, because I don't care what challenge you're facing in life. I can probably boil it down to an inability to self-parent. So this is why I'm so adamant on this. And like I said, like, I'm talking in the extremes of black and white, so that all of you can find the shades of gray and where you sit in this whole spectrum. And, like, the purpose of this is to help us understand that we have a family, we have a lineage, and these painful dynamics have been passed down generation after generation after generation. And so it's nobody's fault. This is not about pointing fingers. This is not about any of that, but it's about, with discernment, with humbleness, and with a desire to respect ourselves, our children, and our family lineage, it's coming to the understanding, or becoming curious about the possibility, that these times may be calling for us to heal the family lineage, not by healing anybody else other than ourselves. And in doing so, making the statement of thank you to all my ancestors for the lessons, for the experiences, and it stops with me.
Mm,
I want to become curious about who I am and what my potential is beyond my loyalty to family wounds, because that is how I learned to belong.
mm. That's so powerful, just having that there. Um, if you are coming from a place of not instinct injured, I'm imagining you're waking up in the morning and you're not having that ego say, right, it's breakfast, this is what I normally eat. It's I'm guessing it's going to look different every day depending on how you're feeling, but you're up and you're just listening to your body, you're paying attention.
I love this. I just love the conversation and all the questions that you're asking, because see, like, my first career is mass communications and journalism, right?
Mhm.
And I have extensive experience in media. And I will tell you something. What makes a powerful communicator, an interviewer, is somebody who's asking the questions that your audience is asking themselves. And it's like you're empathing and you're reading them and you're picking up on what they want to ask. So thank you for that, because it allows me to share this perspective with them and to get to them through you.
Mm.
So thank you for that. So, okay, so reframe the question again, because I just got a little sidetracked.
When you're more instinct aware, what does your sort of day feel
Okay.
like?
Okay. So what I was gonna say in relationship to that is, people say all the time, listen to your body.
Exactly. It's like, what the does that
Listen to
mean?
what?
Yeah.
You're talking about listen to what?
Yeah. My stomach says I want a donut. Is that good? Like,
All right, so remember how we were talking first about like the instinct injury, and I mentioned there's instinct, there's innate intelligence, there's intuition, and then there's our own integrity. I mean, I can't get into each one of those because like it would really expand the conversation, although it's such an important
we'll do
topic. But
another
let's
episode.
talk about, okay, so let's just talk about innate intelligence for a minute. Your body is an instrument of truth. Your body doesn't lie. It's the only thing that doesn't lie, because it is 100% genuinely interested in your survival. Nature and your body don't lie. And so if your body is an instrument of truth, your body will give you something called instinct. And that instinct that every animal has will guide them to food in nature, to water, which is when you're thirsty, in nature. And then once we have that food, our body's innate intelligence gives us feedback, biofeedback, and it lets us know, oh, wow, that felt amazing. This supports our survival. This gives us life force. This is why we feel amazing. Or, the hell are you doing? I just felt like crap. I got a headache. I got this. I got that. And in some cases, some of the symptoms may manifest anywhere from the moment you eat to 72 hours later. That's a case of a sensitivity, for example. Or it could be some emotional, painful association with food that has triggered a reaction. But let's put that aside. So our body is an instrument of truth. It's sophisticated. And it's so accurate and so incredible. And I'm going to tell you just how incredible it is. When you have a meal, what is a proper meal for us? It's a meal that allows us to feel like we are stable, like we've been nourished, like our nervous system just was regulated, like we feel calm, we feel good, sustained, like we just had life force flow through us. And that lasts us like 4 to 6 hours. In other words, after having a proper meal, and please write this down, everybody, you should feel energy, clarity of thought, no cravings, emotionally satisfied, and emotionally stable and satisfied, with no bloating, no gas, no digestive distress, nothing. This should feel like this for about 4 to 6 hours. That's a sign that what you ate allowed you to maintain proper blood sugar balance. Your nervous system is regulated. Your animal being is calm because it knows it's being fed. It's received nourishment. If you eat in a way that sends you onto the blood sugar roller coaster and your blood sugar is all over the place, you are going to feel, first after you ate, maybe a little glimpse of energy, maybe for a few minutes, maybe an hour, maybe 20 minutes, followed by a crash. And you're yawning and you're feeling sleepy and tired and like you want to go and take a nap, and you have cravings for coffee, for sweets, for chocolate, and you feel like you can't concentrate and you can't think. So if you're reading a book, you have to read the paragraph 3 and 4 times because the information doesn't sink in. And you feel like the glass is half empty. And so if anyone says anything, then you can't regulate your nervous system. So you break into a crying, or you feel depressed, or you feel anxious. You can't regulate your emotions and you feel hungry. all the time. So then you tell yourself that you don't have will, or that you're different, and that you'll never control, the word control, your sugar cravings and your appetite, and you're this and you're that, and it's your genes and it's bad luck, and it's all these different stories. When what we're actually seeing, and then you're bloated, gassy, and some people say, well, I don't feel bloated, but their belly looks distended,
Mm.
like it doesn't look flat.
That's their
Okay.
normal.
Yeah, these are the norms. Like this is excessive fermentation taking place in the gut, creating gas, excessive gas, bloating, and this is not a good response. It doesn't feel good. Like feeling like you have to unzip your pants after you've had a meal.
Mm.
You've normalized this. This is not normal. Your abdominal muscles have to relax to give room to either inflamed organs or to all the gas that has been produced. And then your back is now unstable because your muscles are not going to work properly to help you stabilize your spine and so forth. And it's like a whole cascade of events.
Mm.
So our body is wise, and it tells us, for example, if you've eaten more fat that you can tolerate right after the meal, you may, or that you can digest, you may feel yucky, like like a nausea feeling.
Mm.
And if that is the cause of it, and you have some citrus, like an orange or something like that, it'll make it go away.
Mm.
Like citrus can help with the digestion of fats. And you may notice that sometimes when you're going to eat pork and it's something really fatty, you may want to put a little bit of lemon on it, etc. So our body is this sophisticated, and it tells us. And I used to, with my clients that were diabetics, I used to work with them with their blood sugar monitor. And what I would say is, okay, so this is an exogenous, an external agent that is giving you feedback about your body. I'm going to teach you how to activate that inside of you. So what we would do is we would have the blood sugar monitor, and then I would say, okay, so how did you feel after your meal? Energy, clarity of thought, blah, 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 blah. And then we would look at their blood sugar, boom, stable. And then they would have a meal that through their blood sugar all over the place, and they had the sleepiness and the tired, and they couldn't concentrate, and they were craving sweets, and they were, and so it's like, it intuitively, it maybe back in the day, like all animals eat intuitively,
Mm.
intuitively, instinctively, and nobody is overweight and nobody's having issues with their health when they're out in the wild unless humans come in and distort their environment.
Mm.
Okay, and this is how we were. Like if you look at anthropological research and the work of Weston Price, etc., like, but all of the ideas
Mm.
and this is instinct injured us. An animal is instinct healthy, an animal in the wild. A primitive, quote unquote, primitive person in the wild is instinct healthy
Yeah.
because they don't have all the propaganda and all the brainwashing.
They don't have
And
social media, do they? They're not on their
oh,
phones,
they don't have
just sticking
TV.
it.
They don't,
I shouldn't be eating like this.
let me give you an example of this. So we spent some time in Fiji, my husband and I. And these people have everything to be fully self-sustaining, to have the most incredible diet, whatever. And then I'm going there and I'm just seeing like nobody's eating coconut oil, which is what they ate traditionally, coconuts and coconut. That was like their main source of fat, like for these Pacific Islanders, based on some of the inquiries, and maybe pork and, but coconut was it. And they're eating all this processed industrialized vegetable oil, like not vegetable oil, seed oils. Okay,
Mm.
that's just like a marketing scam. So seed oils. And I asked them, I went to them like, why aren't you eating coconut? No, because coconut is going to give us a heart attack. So TV made its way there, and all of its experts. I worked on TV. I know how it is. It's spell casting central. And I've been in meetings where the president of the network has said to the advertisers, well, you are our customers. You are like we live for you, because the reason why TV is free for you is because we have advertisers. And then that was back in the day when we grew up. Now we've got social media that, is, taking that to a whole new level. But these people are disconnected from their instinct, their innate intelligence, their intuition, and their entire, like their ancestral primal living, that was what supported them. And now, like the amount of processed, refined sugar and starch and vegetable oil and somebody who was there for the with I can't remember, some government organization was telling me that Fijians, like the majority were like morbidly obese, and that they were very concerned that many were going to start becoming extinct because of the epidemic of diabetes. And I'm going to myself, this is completely unnecessary. People that were super healthy back in the day before industrialized food made it there, with all their brainwashing and academics and propaganda that are all bought and paid for. I have no time for any of that nonsense. Like have done this to these people. And in my travels throughout the world, I'm witnessing the same thing over and over and over again. When I grew up, like I grew up in Colombia, in South America, with indigenous people, with fishermen, with country people, and with people in the city. And these people that were eating like the real didn't have the issues that people in the city had. But like, and we like are so disconnected that we can't see this. Like we have so many problems. Like, I mean, like I'm just like at the tip of the iceberg kind of
Yeah.
conversation. But the disconnect. And here's what I want to say. What is your body telling you through weight gain? Because that's what we have to ask ourselves. If we don't ask that question, we're never going to get to the root of the issue and address it there. Why is your body holding on to excessive fat? If your body has been under stress for a long period of time and it's in survival mode, your body will hold on to resources to survive. If you try to force your body by starving it, over-exercising it, giving it stimulants to push your body even more sympathetic, deeper into that fight or flight response, you are going to be digging yourself deeper into the hole. And these are the solutions that the quote unquote weight loss industry gives people. Eat less, move more, and take stimulants or inject yourselves with drugs that disconnect you from your body's regulatory systems that are already messed up because of the processed food that's been engineered to disconnect you from your body's regulatory systems, etc. And now you're going to starve yourself and exercise more and take a stimulant or put yourself on these appetite suppressing drugs. Like, what are we doing when all we need is to regulate the nervous system, to teach people how to create a healthy, safe, cozy home inside themselves that allows them to feel healthy, vibrant, like they have life force flowing through them. And that it's a place that they don't want to run away from because they feel safe in their own skin. And then teach them how to self-regulate so that they can create an environment in their home where there's harmony, where there's peace, and where they feel safe as well, and in their work environment, etc. But if you are living in an environment and you don't like this, that is going to put you in fight or flight, and you're going to be in a dysregulated state of stress and adrenaline and cortisol. If you are eating foods that are putting you on that blood sugar roller coaster and your body thinks, going low blood sugar, fight or flight, we're going to die, let's eat something. And then you eat something that brings your blood sugar up, and that's super toxic to the system. And your body goes, like, we're going to die. We have too much blood sugar. What are we going to do with this? And you spend your day like that. And then on top of that, you're not happy in your romantic relationship, and you're not happy in your relationship with your caregivers, like your parents, and you're not happy in your work, and you're not happy. Okay, can you see how you're in a constant fight or flight state, and your body is just trying to help you survive, and you're shooting the messenger instead of asking the messenger, what are you trying to tell me?
it's exactly that, because so many people I hear saying, oh, my body hates me, like I'm always feeling this way. And it's like, you need to, like you said, get rid of everyone preaching at you, all the experts giving your power away to everyone, and just step back. And it can be harder to start with, but then, like you said, once you're more aware, you then have all of that power and all of the social media and all of the experts, then you don't feel like you've lost yourself. You don't have to listen to them because you know yourself so well. And I love that this has come to end this way, because it's, Hemi, you're not trying to tell people how you should be eating. You haven't once said how you eat. You've said what you're not doing. And we're not even going to share how you eat because it doesn't matter. It's about, you're telling people to listen to themselves and get their power back. And I think that's amazing, because you don't hear it enough from anyone, just to say, you know what works for your body when you get rid of the shit around you.
I eat what gives me life force. And I don't care if somebody agrees or disagrees, because they're not inside of me, because they have not walked these 47 years in this realm, experiencing feeling like crap when I followed their advice or this other. And it's not from a place of arrogance. It's from a place of inner authority. Because if I can close with this.
Yeah.
Your mouth is a limit and a boundary, just like your vagina is, just like every orifice in your body is. And you set limits and boundaries as to what enters your body, your ears, and what you see, your eyes, what you put in your mouth, what you put on your skin, the people that you have sex with, etc., etc. You are the gatekeeper. You set the limits and boundaries. And if you cannot set limits and boundaries with yourself and with your body, how are you going to set limits and boundaries with anybody else around you? So this is about self-mastery. This is not about what Ximy eats. This is about self-discovery, so that you can become an expert in you, and you can learn to lead yourself from a place of wisdom and inner authority, instead of following people around you to tell you how to live. This is about becoming a sovereign.
Thank you so much, Hemi. You're amazing. Like I said at the beginning, and this is why, listeners, this is why she's amazing. So I hope you've taken something from this conversation, and we're going to put in the show links, how to get in touch with Hemi, and your power book, which you've kindly gifted to all the listeners, which is another wonderful thing. And thank you so much. And I'm sure we're going to have you on another episode, because I just can't get enough. There's so much there.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to all of you who sat through this, because I know these are things that may be really confronting and challenging to hear. But all I want to say to you all to close is, you are a child of the divine. You are a unique being. That's why you have a fingerprint. You should not look like anybody else. You have the most incredible system that has been gifted to you, that wants to help you not only survive, but thrive. And you have the ability to learn how to create a safe, cozy, loving, delicious space inside yourself that you don't want to run away from and that you don't want to change. It's your home from the moment you enter this realm until the moment you leave. Learn to love it, to respect it, and to feel safe in it. Listen to it. It will guide you.
Thanks so much, Hemi. And anyone who has loved this episode, please share with other people, other mums, other parents, anyone who you think is going to resonate with what we've said today. And please send us a review. Thanks so much, and bye for now.
Bye.